Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Purivrajagacharya Ashtotar Satashri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai, Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Krishna, Gopa Gopinath, Shyamakunda Radha Kunda, Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Shri Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai, Ganga Mayi Ki Jai, Jamuna Mayi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna, and welcome to Srimad Bhagavatam with His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami. It is Wednesday, January 29th, 2025 in New York, and we're starting today with Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th Canto, Chapter 9, text number 30. We have some leftover comments and questions from the previous class, which we'll hopefully be able to get to after we read our first verse today. Also, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti had an extensive commentary for our previous verse, text 29, which Prabhupada also had a very long purport for, and hopefully we'll look at that as well. So happy you could be with us, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Kendra Prabhu.
Jai Jai Maharaj. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we're hearing Dhruva Maharaj's thoughts as he's contemplating what has just happened during his meeting with the Lord. Dhruva Uvacha Samadhina Naika Bhavena Yat Padam Vidu Sananda Daya Urdhvaretasa Masairahang Shadbira Mushya Padayosh Chayam Upitya Pagata Pritanmati. Dhruva Maharaj thought to himself, to endeavor to be situated in the shade of the lotus feet of the Lord is not an ordinary task, because even the great brahmacharis, headed by Sanandana, who practiced Ashtanga Yoga in trance, attained the shelter of the Lord's lotus feet only after many, many births. Within 6 months, I achieved the same result, yet due to my thinking differently from the Lord, I fell down from my position. Purport. In this verse, Dhruva Maharaj himself explains the cause of his moroseness. First, he laments that to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead directly is not easy. Even great saintly persons, like the 4 celebrated brahmacharis headed by Sanandana, Sanaka, Sanatana, and Sanat Kumar, practiced the yoga system for many, many births and remained in trance before getting the opportunity to see the Supreme Lord face to face. As far as Dhruva Maharaj was concerned, he saw the Supreme Lord personally after only 6 months of practice in devotional service. He expected, therefore, that as soon as he met the Supreme Lord, the Lord would take him to his abode immediately, without waiting. Dhruva Maharaj could understand very clearly that the Lord had offered him the rule of the world for 36,000 years, because in the beginning he was under the spell of the material energy and wanted to take revenge against his stepmother and rule over his father's kingdom. Dhruva Maharaj greatly lamented his propensity for ruling the material world and his revengeful attitude towards other living entities. Om Jnana Timirantasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So Dhruva's morose because even though he got to see the Lord, he knew that there was something else in his mind And he's sorry that he had that thing in his mind because the Lord granted him that thing. He's sorry, as he says, Prabhupada says at the end of the purport, he lamented his propensity for ruling the material world. In other words, he's sorry he so strongly was born with the nature of a kshatriya that overpowered his judgment that he now has as a purified devotee of the Lord. I've been listening to some lectures in which Prabhupada, he commonly has done this, where it says here, Dhruva Maharaj saw the Supreme Lord practically after only 6 months of practice. And during Prabhupada's manifest pastimes, apparently there was someone who was advertising that if you chant a mantra for 6 months, you will become God. So far from that is Dhruva Maharaj's position. He got to see God himself. And yeah, so here he's lamenting. Just in the previous verse, to go back and give us just a little bit of context. The previous verse is Maitreya Muni speaking. He says, Dhruva Maharaj's heart, which was pierced by the arrows of the harsh words of his stepmother, was greatly aggrieved, and thus when he fixed upon his goal of life, he did not forget her misbehavior. He did not demand actual liberation from this material world, but at the end of his devotional service, when the Supreme Personality of Godhead appeared before him, he was simply ashamed of the material demands he had in his mind. And this pastime of the Lord, it points out so clearly how well the Lord knows the heart of his devotee. We may approach the Lord with X, Y, and Z motive. We may be among the Chatur Vida in the Bhagavad Gita that approach the Lord because we want this, we want that, we want the other thing. And we may indeed become purified of our initial booster rocket fuel to get us into devotional service, or that may take some time. And the Lord deals with us according to his own sweet will. He may give us what we want or think we want or not, as we've discussed at great length in the previous purports. Maharaj, we'd love to hear from you if you have some comments on our text 30 here.
Yes. I'm reminded of the purport in Bhagavad Gita where Prabhupada talks about impersonal liberation. It's in, I think, Klesha Dikhatarastesham, where Prabhupada says that not only is it an impediment in the early stage, but later, when one takes up devotional service, then you've got this residue to try to get rid of, this persistent, impersonal point of view, which is an obstruction to pure Krishna consciousness. So the impersonal attachment to the impersonal feature, Prabhupada said, is a problem in the beginning and it's a problem later. So I'm reminded of that from this purport here, where it's not liberation, but it's material desires, which are have created what Dhruva Maharaj sees as an obstruction, even in the mature stage. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. Thank you very much. And because we are a personalist movement, and we are here because we respect your presentation of the Bhagavatam so much, we can only wonder and hope that you're not feeling poorly because of the fact that we're seeing you lying down today.
Oh, it's a back issue. The back is in spasms for the last couple of days, so we're just trying to give it rest, like imposed serious rest, so that it'll calm down. These things usually go away after a couple of days.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for asking.
Saraswati Mataji, please go ahead.
Pranams Param Puja Maharaj and all the Vaishnavas. I was just thinking along this sentence that Dhruva Maharaj expected, therefore, that as soon as he met the Supreme Lord, the Lord would take him to his abode immediately without waiting. So my question is that we know that Dhruva Maharaj is on a transcendental platform. He's a pure devotee. And from what we've learned, pure devotees don't really care where they are. As long as they're engaged in service to the Lord, it doesn't matter to them. Hell, heaven, spiritual world, all of it is the same as long as they're engaged. So I'm wondering why, after he has attained pure complete perfection, why there was still this desire that he expected, that he wanted to go back immediately to the spiritual world. And we know that the Lord within the heart would have understood that this was Dhruv Maharaj's expectation, and yet the Lord didn't fulfill that desire. So I wonder what Maharaj's thoughts would be on that. Hare Krishna.
Well, it's natural. A devotee naturally wants to go to the Lord's own abode and associate with the Lord. That's not wrong. Also, he's living with this manifestation of his own material desires. That's the regrettable thing. Yes, a devotee can serve anywhere, but he's what is it, like forced to wear the scarlet letter in that novel. He's forced to live with the external manifestation of his own internal material attachments. So he's regretting that, even though, of course, it's received as a benediction from the Lord. But still, he's being reminded constantly, oh man, what was I doing? Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Maharaj. And thank you for that question, Saraswati Mata. I was thinking along similar lines that just in my own experience in practicing Krishna consciousness, you have some wonderful experience, and you may think, oh, I could die now. Some kirtan or some class that's just so absolutely wonderful. You think, this is it. The Lord's going to take me now. And he doesn't, because you've got stuff to do, or you think you have stuff to do. Anantashesha Prabhu asks, is impersonalism more dangerous than atheism?
Personalism is atheism. There's no personality of Godhead, so it is atheism.
Thank you, Maharaj. Hare Krishna. Anantashesha Prabhu, any follow-up from that, or are you satisfied? Silence means agreement.
Again, I'm satisfied. Nice short answer. Yeah, thank you.
Yes. A couple of things came in at the end of that last class that we didn't have time to get to. There were a couple of comments. One was from Praveen Krishna Prabhu posted this wonderful verse. Satyang dishatyartitam artito nrinam nayavartado yat punarartita yataha swayang vidate bhajatam anichchitam ichchapidhanam nijapada pallavam. The Supreme Personality of Godhead fulfills the material desires of a devotee who approaches him with such motives, but he does not bestow benedictions upon the devotee that will cause him to demand more benedictions again. However, the Lord willingly gives the devotee shelter at his own lotus feet, even though such a person does not aspire for it, and that shelter satisfies all his desires. That is the Supreme Personality's special mercy. Thank you again for that. That seems to be a verse that's come up more than once in recent verses. Very, very relevant to the context of Dhruva Maharaj. And if you don't mind, if you're able to post that verse number in the chat, we can all memorize that. And Morai Gupta Prabhu had posted a question. He says, Narottama Das Thakur regrets having, quote, willingly drunk poison. And then he asks, where does such a feeling come from? And should we try to cultivate it, or would that be too artificial?
Where does the feeling come from? Of course, it comes from his extreme humility. I'm sorry, I was struggling with the controls on this phone. Could you repeat that question?
Sure, Maharaj. Narottama Das Thakur regrets having, quote, willingly drunk poison. Where does such a feeling come from? And should we try to cultivate it, or would that be too artificial?
It comes from his humility. He's actually drinking the nectar of Krishna consciousness, but he's feeling regret and humility. It comes from humility. We should, of course, try to cultivate humility, but not try to imitate Narottama Das Thakur.
Jai. And I also wanted to go back, and Praveen Krishna Prabhu has posted that verse number, 5th canto, 19th chapter. Thank you very much. And Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has nice commentary on our previous verse that we didn't get a chance to read because the purport itself, Prabhupada's, was quite long, and so was our discussion on that. But this is just enhancing our context here. Maitreya said he, meaning Dhruva, he did not desire the liberation awarded by the giver of liberation, since he remembered that his heart had been pierced by the harsh words of his stepmother. From remembering his previous condition, he felt remorse. And then he quotes the Padma Purana. Muktim bhaktimat paryadatvam vishnur anucharatvam hi mokshamahur manishinaha. The wise say that liberation means becoming an associate of the Lord and serving Vishnu. Thus, mukti, or liberation, on this verse, does not mean merging into the Lord. In verse 9, Dhruva expressed his preference for serving the Lord over Brahman. But then the statement, quote, he did not desire this liberation, end quote, is not suitable. It is understood that he desired being an associate of the Lord from his statement in verse 11. That is true. The word smaran, remembering, is in the present tense. This indicates that he did not desire the Lord's association while remembering his impure state of experiencing the pain of the arrows of his stepmother's words. He went to Madhuvan and performed austerities with the determination to worship the Lord with the desire to obtain a place greater than of his father or forefathers. On directly meeting the Lord, what is the question of remembering the harsh words of his stepmother, since his senses had all become spiritualized? However, the Lord then said in verse 19 that he would fulfill his material desire. Dhruva became ashamed and repented. My Lord knows my crime of possessing material desires, since he remembers my previous vow. I am so foolish. Why did I make such a vow? When I said I desired the association of the devotees, in verse 11, the Lord will think I am simply deceiving him. Thus, he did not clearly promise to fulfill that desire, but instead promised to fulfill my previous desire. In talking about the future of my brother, he reminded me again of my previous envious nature. Thus, the next 6 verses reveal qualities of shame, repentance, humility, and disgust. Hare Krishna. And in Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's.
Just if I can add something.
Yes, please, Maharaj.
I'm not wrong. These come under the category of anubhav, subsequent ecstasies, and also the abhachari, disturbing symptoms. These feelings of humility and disgust and so on, they follow from the ecstatic attachment to Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj. Yes, and as we were hearing this morning from Ravinda Swarup Prabhu, something in one of his essays that reminded us of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's expression of humility and his love for Krishna during the Shikshastaka section in the CC, where it said when his humility increased, his ecstatic love for Krishna increased. So as you were just saying, and as your Psychology 108 lecture reminds us, that these feelings of regret and repentance are good for us. There's a in spiritual life, it's good to feel bad, in other words. At least that's how you presented it.
Yes. And also Prabhupada makes the point that on the transcendental platform, there's no difference between these feelings, between feeling miserable and feeling wonderful. The feeling of separation is considered more relishable than even the feeling of being with Krishna. So on the transcendental platform, the devotee may be feeling disgust, regret, and humility, and so on. These aren't like the materially painful symptoms experienced, when you make a business error, or you make the wrong move and lose the girl or something. Those are all material feelings, but these are the transcendental counterparts, original ecstatic feelings of love for Krishna in different varieties of expression.
Jai, thank you. So Srila Vishwanath says to the verse we began with today, Dhruva said, having attained in 6 months the shade of the lotus feet of the Lord, which Sanaka and others, strict brahmacharis, do not attain by concentration in one lifetime, I fell from that position because of having other desires. And briefly, the Srila Vishwanath says, Naika bhavena means not in one lifetime. Remembering that he was situated in the shade of the Lord who is seated on Garuda, Dhruva speaks. Having achieved that shade, I fell down, apagataha, because my mind was thinking of things other than the Lord, pritanmati. Therefore the Lord did not take me to his abode with him. Hare Krishna. I have so many windows up, I have to get back to see if there's anything happening in the chat. Murari Gupta Prabhu says, thank you, Maharaj. And we can move on, I think, to text 31. If Saraswati Mataji is ready, please go ahead and read.
Text 31. Bahobat mamanatmyam manda bhagyasya pashyata bhavachita padamulam gatvaya cheyad antvat. Translation. Alas, just look at me. I am so unfortunate. I approach the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who can immediately cut the chain of the repetition of birth and death. But still, out of my foolishness, I prayed for things which are perishable. Purport. The word Antmyam is very significant in this verse. Atma means the soul, and Anatmya means without any conception of the soul. Srila Rishabdev instructed his sons that unless a human being comes to the point of understanding the Atma, or spiritual position, whatever he does is ignorance, and this brings only defeat in his life. Dhruva Maharaja regrets his unfortunate position, for although he approached the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is always able to give his devotee the highest benediction of cessation of the repetition of birth and death, which is impossible for any demigod to offer, he foolishly wanted something perishable. When Hiranyakashipu asked immortality from Lord Brahma expressed his inability to offer such a benediction because he himself is not immortal. Therefore, immortality or complete cessation of the chain of repeated birth and death can be offered by the Supreme Lord, the Personality of Godhead himself, not by others. Harim vinanastrim taranti. It is said that without the blessings of Hari, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, no one can stop the continuous chain of birth and death within this material world. Therefore, the Supreme Lord is called Bhavchit. The Vaishnava philosophy in the process of Krishna consciousness prohibits the devotee from all kinds of material aspirations. A Vaishnava devotee should always be Anya Bilashita Shunya, free from all material aspirations for the result of fruitive activities or empiric philosophical speculation. Dhruva Maharaja was actually initiated by Narad Muni, the greatest Vaishnava, in the chanting of Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. This mantra is a Vishnu mantra, for by practicing the chanting of this mantra, one is elevated to the Vishnu lok. Dhruva Maharaja regrets that although he was initiated in the Vishnu mantra by a Vaishnava, he still aspired for material benefits. That was another cause for lamentation. Although he got the result of the Vishnu mantra by the causeless mercy of the Lord, he lamented how foolish he was to have strived for material benefits while practicing devotional service. In other words, every one of us who is engaged in devotional service in Krishna consciousness should be completely free from all material aspirations. Otherwise, we will have to lament like Dhruva Maharaja. Om Gyanan Timirindasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuran Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. So we read how Dhruva Maharaja is continuing to lament because he knows he has come up short, and that instead of asking for something that would have been permanent, he talks about cutting the chain of repetition of birth and death. That is something that would have been a permanent a benediction that would have resulted in something permanent being attained. He understands that he asked for something that was completely insignificant when you compare that to this benediction of having the shackles of repeated birth and death cut. It's quite clear that no demigod has the ability to give you that benediction of stopping the repetition of birth and death. It's only the Supreme Personality of Godhead who has the power to give you that benediction. And just they talked of Srila Rishabdev, how in his instructions to his son, he said, Tapo divyam putraka yena satvam shudyat. Everyone should engage their life in performing austerities to become fully purified and self-realized by following the path of bhakti yoga. So one's sole business in life is to only worship Vishnu. Nate vidu swartha gatim hi Vishnu. That's the only goal that one should be pursuing. And today I was reading something quite interesting in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the Madhya Lila. And here in the purport, it talks of how every living entity is morose in the material world because he is always in want. He undergoes a great struggle for existence and tries to minimize his miserable condition by squeezing the utmost pleasure out of this world. But the living entity is never successful in this endeavor. While in a miserable condition, a person sometimes seeks the favor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But this is very difficult for materialistic people to obtain. And we know that Dhruva Maharaja in 6 short months actually received the full favor of the Lord. And therefore he's, to some extent, this self-deprecation is taking place because he understands how exceptionally fortunate he was. And yet somehow or another he came up short when it comes to that standard of a devotee having no personal material desires whatsoever. Anya bilashita shunyam. He knows that he came up short in that, and that's why he continues to regret. And he also, Dhruv Maharaj, through his life and his experiences, it's all instructive, and it serves as a warning to conditional souls who may find themselves on the same trajectory as him by knowingly or unknowingly exchanging the opportunity of having this pure love for Krishna prema, exchanged for mere material things. And also, when we talk about this great opportunity that Dhruva Maharaja had in the form of Mahabhagavad, the spiritual master, Narada Muni, he's also that sort of double pain coming to him, because he had at his disposal the greatest, one of the greatest spiritual masters you could have, and somehow or another he couldn't take complete advantage of having this opportunity. And therefore we see how Dhruv Maharaj just keeps on regretting how he couldn't unfortunately accept the initial instructions and advice that was given to him by Narada Muni, who was advising him in the beginning to just not be swayed by all these temporary material worldly affairs, insults, vengeance. All of that is just, it's very relative and so temporary in the grand scheme of things. But unfortunately, Dhruv Maharaj could not accept that highest instructions. So he's just completely sad and unhappy at this point. But we know that these feelings are not the feelings of conditional souls who fail to achieve something, who've hankered for something. It's not like someone who stood 24 hours outside a store in order to get to the Boxing Day sales and get the best price for designer shoes. And then when they can't get it, they're like miserable. They think their life has come to an end. We're not looking at that kind of silly business. So these are my comments. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mataji. Maharaj, we'd love to hear from you also.
Nothing to add there. Well, let me think about that a second. No, I won't add more.
In case you may wish to comment on this, Murai Gupta Prabhu sends a note saying, "It's wonderful that on the transcendental platform, every conceivable feeling or emotion is ecstatic. And that's one reason why impersonalism is so unattractive to devotees."
Yeah, there's nothing. There's nothing. That's worse than suffering. Just nothing. I think I mentioned this. Did I mention someplace about the lady who wrote a book about near-death experiences? Usually the near-death experiences, there's the feeling of just unlimited gratitude, and you come in touch with the being of light and all of that kind of stuff. But this woman had a negative experience, and she found that she was able to get in touch with others who had similar negative experiences. It wasn't that all the it was seemed to have been a what's the word, a filter imposed by the researchers who were really happy when they heard these wonderful experiences, and sort of made that the typology for near-death encounters or experiences. But she said no, there were plenty that were frightening, miserable, and so on. And she categorized them and wrote a book. And among the horrific experiences some people had was just being suspended eternally in a kind of nothingness, in a world where there were just geometrical shapes of no meaning or just nothing. And that was like, absolutely horrific, just to be eternally nowhere, And that's the impersonal position. Kaivalyam narakayate. Prabodhananda Saraswati says that this personal urging is considered hellish. And that was the actual experience. Of course, those people didn't have a direct experience of absolute oneness, but monotony. Even in ordinary material experience, you go see a film, how was it? Monotonous. If a book, a film, and any kind of experience, to say that it was monotonous isn't high praise. To say it's like exceedingly unattractive. So you have this feature of oneness. It's monotonous. It's not full of. Whereas you get Krishna, and it's full of variety, all sorts of experiences, even if some of them are, apparently disturbing. It's variety, and the variety is relishable. In the spiritual world, even the so-called misery is exceedingly relishable. So, Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. Someone may ask, however, though, that what about Brahmananda? We hear so much about that. It can't be completely, absolutely suffering because it's supposed to be happiness.
Yes, it's happiness, but from the point of view of those who are in the material world, Brahmananda is happiness. But from the point of view of the devotees, it's hell. For those who are suffering the scorching pains of material existence, relief from pain is experienced as pleasure. But actually, relief from pain is just that. It's relief from pain. It's not real pleasure. Prabhupada gave the example of a person who's convalescent. That's not real life, to be sitting in a hospital bed and not really still suffering, but not yet released. Prabhupada said real life is when you can eat, again you can walk, again you can have sex, again you can do all these things that you wanted to do. That's health. Just to be lying in the hospital bed, that's neither sickness nor health. And that's not satisfying. So, of course, it's relief. I'm not suffering anymore, but it's not enjoyment either. So from the perspective of the suffering patient, if I could just get rid of this pain, I would feel so happy. But then when he's in just, lying in bed and not going back to his normal activities, that's not happy. And from the point of view of the person who has resumed those activities, lying in bed is not happiness. That's just, okay, relief from pain, but that's not happy life. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Saraswati Mata, your hand is up.
Oh, yes. I'm trying to asked this question after I read something in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and it's talking about Lord Krishna's mercy is dependent only on affection. Being obliged only by affection, Lord Krishna acts very independently. Service to Lord Krishna can be rendered in two ways. One can serve the Lord in affection or in veneration. When service is rendered in affection, it is the Lord's special mercy. When service is rendered in veneration, it is doubtful whether Krishna's mercy is actually involved. It just made me think, because in the verse talks of Vishnu Loka, and we know that in the Vaikuntha planets predominantly the devotees are relating to the Lord in awe and reverence. But these sentences seem to sort of imply that it's Krishna's mercy may not be involved, but of course the Lord's mercy has to be involved somehow. Hare Krishna.
Sorry, who is that quote from? Bhaktivinoda Thakur?
No, it's the Lord. Well, it's actually Sarvabhauma discussing with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu about how Ishvara Puri had accepted two disciples who came from the Shudra family.
Mhm.
And then they're just talking about how service can be rendered in affection. But it does continue. If Krishna's mercy is there, it is not dependent on any prescribed caste or creed. But it just made me think, if service is rendered two ways, affection and veneration, we know in Vaikuntha Lok it's awe and reverence. So, I mean, if it's not Krishna's, well, it has to be Krishna's mercy. No one can go to the spiritual world without the Lord's mercy, is what I thought. But
So that's another perspective answer, or another perspective for the person who's in material life. To be free to liberation is enjoyable. Or for the person who's the patient, to be convalescent would be great. For the person who's healthy, convalescence is not very good. And then, okay, now you're healthy, but for the person who's, rich and famous or something, just to be healthy is not so great. But to be, enjoying whatever it is well through love in his family or what have you. So for the devotee, impersonalism, the impersonal merging is terrible. For the impersonalist, material suffering is terrible. For the devotee, impersonalism is terrible. And for the devotee on the platform of love of Krishna, Vaikuntha is terrible. Perhaps not exactly terrible, but I don't want to go to Vaikuntha. All that awe and reverence, and there's no spontaneous love. I don't think there's any mercy there, because he's got a still higher affection. Therefore, the gopis, we don't want Krishna in Kurukshetra. Imagine if we could go to be with Krishna in Dwarka. How many would say, no, I'm not interested, turning it down? But the gopis, we don't want this. We don't want Krishna as a prince in Dwarka or Kurukshetra. We want Krishna in Vrindavan. We want Krishna in Vrindavan. So here, that's a similar expression that there's no love in Vaikuntha, just awe and reverence. No, there's we read elsewhere there is love for Krishna, but it's compared to the spontaneous love of seen in Vrindavan. Vaikuntha is there's no mercy there. There's no love there. Is that okay?
yes, Maharaj, thank you so much.
Thank you, Maharaj. In the chat, we have something from Praveen Krishna Prabhu. Tanchocha sochyan avido nushoche Hare Katayam Vimukhan Aghena. Kshinoti Devo Nimishas Tu Yesham. Ayur Vritavada Gati Smritinam. O
Yes.
sage, persons who, because of their sinful activities, are averse to the topics of the transcendence, and thus ignorant of the Mahabharata's purpose, the Bhagavad Gita, are pitied by the pitiable. The pitiable impersonalists pity those who are influenced by the modes of ignorance and passion. But the pure devotees of the Lord take pity on both classes of men, because both waste their most valuable time in the human form of life in false pursuits, namely sense enjoyment and mental speculative presentations of different theories and goals of life.
Wonderful. Exactly the right verse.
Thank you, Praveen Krishna Prabhu. It is 7:51, almost 7:52 in New York, and our next verse takes us into a longish purport, which, to do it justice, would require some more time to properly discuss and derive the benefit from, I would say, just based on our experience in this Sangha. So I think we could probably pause here for Kirtan and be
Yeah, I've
happy.
got a whole here.
You've got a band,
Oh yeah, we have a band.
Jai.
I'm just going to switch from my phone to my laptop because I don't know what kind of controls I have on my phone. And I don't even know if I could control the controls. So let me just switch. I'm disappearing here and I'll reappear with the laptop and the band.
Jai.
Okay, we're back. I may not give you video. You'll see whether we can get a good vantage. But we will give you audio. Okay, Maji, you're chanting. So we chant Hare Krishna, nothing else. That's our program. And we can go till 7 minutes.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare
Krishna, Krishna, Hare Rama, Krishna, Krishna, Hare Rama, Krishna, Krishna, Hare
Jai Om Srimad Bhagavatam Ashtotar Sri Srimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Sikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gop Gopinath Sham Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Tham Ki Jai Navdeep Tham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Jamuna Mai Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande Hari Bol.
Hari Hari Bol. Thank you so much, Maharaj, and thank you to your on-site Kirtan assembly. Jai Jai. And some ending comments from the chat. Murai Gupta Prabhu says, thank you, Maharaj. I hope you recover quickly. And Praveen Krishna Prabhu offers, if Maharaj takes rest and applies balm like Amrutanjan, he shall recover quickly, and physiotherapy Saraswati Mata offers. So we all wish you the best, Maharaj.
Thank you very much. And I'm taking the balm like Amrutanjan and resting. Therefore, according to Praveen Krishna, I'll recover quickly. I trust that, yes, I will. Thank you.
And our resident pharmacist, Ananta Shesha Prabhu, says physiotherapy, definitely.
Thank you.
Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami Maharaj ki jai.
Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Gaur Premanande Hari Bol. Jai.